What'd you find?
Flint.
Oh, look at that.
I saw this little piece. Like that grayish. It's not Onondaga.
It's got like banding.
Yeah, it's like green,
color.
gray, blue.
That's cool.
Wow. I've not seen this kind before. So mixed in with the limestone. Wow. That's a really, really high quality flint. In my pocket. Mine. Alright, so now I know what I'm looking for. So this looks a little different.
Oh, wow.
White flint.
Look at that.
I'll take a flake off.
It's like freeze damaged in size a little bit.
Yep. That is super high quality, though it's just damaged. If I take another flake off, it might look a little better. So white flint in New York. That's more damaged up there, but it's the chalky stuff.
Cortex.
Yep. I'll put these flakes in my pocket. There we go. Okay, coming with me. So that's two different kinds on this in the same general area here. Okay. I found this here. I saw that little bit of shiny and took a few hits, and it's like a super high quality quartzite. I did want to try over here where the color is. Yeah, there's flint in there.
Nice.
Cool. All different kinds here. Keep looking. Got two pieces here. Got this, which is definitely flint, but it's not such high quality. That is flint. It's just damaged. Let's see if I could get this piece off. Cool. That's a weird looking flint. There we go. Yeah, flint with damage. There's not seem to be an awful lot here, but I did find some here. It's small pieces, small cobbles of extremely high quality stuff. I wonder which way it's coming from. The river's flowing that way, so it's probably coming from up there. Yeah, I don't see a whole lot here. Keep looking though. That looks like a limestone to me, but it's a lighter gray limestone. Yeah, that's a limestone. very, very high quality limestone though. Let me try another section. No, this is actually flint. This tricked me. This is flint. It's just the same color as the limestone. So that's 3 different varieties right here. Huh. Crazy. Smells like gunpowder. Smell it? Gunpowder. Alright, my pockets are getting full. I'll try another piece because of that last piece of flint that looked like limestone. Limestone. Limestone.
It looks the same on the outside.
Yep, looks the same as the other stuff, but this is limestone. One of the ways I've been able to tell limestone is these weird ripples in it, as well as it's just super grainy. So I've been doing this for days now, just looking at this. I'm starting to get rock blind again. I can't tell what's what, and when I look up, everything's moving all weird. Like, if anybody's wondering what this is it's a ferro rod and a little piece of ceramic, and it's made by Wazoo Survival Gear. And what you do, I'll show you. Pull this down, then you take this and you can start a fire with it. So that's an awesome bit of survival gear that you could get for yourself from Wazoo Survival Gear. Go check that out. I'll put the link somewhere, like here or down in the comments or in the description or something. I don't know. It's a fun little thing. I always start fires with it, and it's fun. I like it. Yep. I just don't want to leave because I would love to make something big out of this kind of stuff. That is really pretty. Okay. Onwards. So this spot looked good from space for rocks. And right here is a giant block. Oh, Leah just found a good little piece. That's a definite flint. Yeah. That's a good piece. Little tiny piece, so I'm gonna leave it. And Leah found something good in the water too. What do we got? Nice piece. Super nice piece.
The water's cold.
Yep, the rock is freezing my hand. That's a nice spear point right there. So, nice. It's all underwater though.
Back here.
Yeah, I'll come back to the spot when there's a drought or something. Alright, on to the next spot. This is some really clear water. Wow. Pretty. So there is flint here too. I'm finding that there is flint in most places. in the northeast here. I see a piece right there. See that? It's small. Right there. Right there. Alright, I am driving. Close the window. I am driving. It's starting to get dark, and I haven't picked a campsite yet again. I was looking at freecampsites.net, and I'm not seeing a whole lot. A bunch of like Lowe's parking lots and stuff like that. So I think I'm gonna try to find a state forest that I could camp in, and we'll see. But it is getting dark, so I'm gonna be just driving aimlessly in the dark. Okay, I'll check back in. Why is my nose red? It's not that cold. What the heck? There is some cool places here and cool looking campgrounds, but they're all closed for the season. It's like start of November. I don't know why everything's closed. It's not that cold yet. Gas stations are open, but they have no coffee whatsoever. The one person said there is a coffee shortage. So, I'm in trouble. Okay, that's enough. Good morning. Day 3. Tired. It's literally a logging road. There's right there. And off these logging roads are little called primitive campsites. And this one has more than most usually do. It has a table. All along this logging road are these little primitive campsites with a picnic table and a fire pit. And you could stay here for up to 13 days. It's pretty cool. But I'm heading west more, so I'm gonna get back in the car and head out. I just wanted to show you what it looked like. It's literally just in the middle of a huge patch of wilderness with logging roads. The roads are clear. You could drive down them. They're really well kept because the trucks keep coming down. And they actually even have porta pots way in the back that I stumbled across. All right, so I gotta get driving. I'll see you guys soon. So you can see how well taken care of the logging roads are here. It's literally, the name of the road is called Logging Road. Logging Road.
Logging Road 8.
Logging Road 8. Pretty cool. Sorry, I had the heat on. It's freezing. Yeah, there's a... Here's one of the logging areas. Pull in here for a minute. They just leave them and pick them up, and they chop an area. Also, my Patreon people paid for this little dash cam. So now when I'm recording, well, when I'm driving and I see something really scenic that I want to put in the videos, or something very dangerous that I want to put in the videos, I just hit the enter key and it starts recording. So that's pretty cool. So thanks guys, I appreciate it. Frost. Just walking in the path here, and I'm seeing what looks like flint. That's on Dugga.
Seriously?
Smell it. Right in the pathway.
You have to hit it again.
You don't smell it? Hold on. Here, smell that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Smells like oil.
Yep. Alright, I'm going to
Right in
keep
the
this little
path.
piece. So,
Look, here's another one.
alright, so to explain this, I look on Google Earth for an area that has a lot of rock pouring out of any waterway, like a river or creek. And when you see that, it's worth investigating. But I also look at geology maps to see where flint might be. So I look for limestone areas, because limestone usually has some flint in it. And as you see right here, this is limestone and flint. Now, to explain this in the pathway, they make gravel out of limestone, but they don't care that there's flint mixed into the limestone, and they throw it along pathways or places people walk. So that's another thing to look out for. If you see flint in a pathway, or limestone even, like this right here, it's worth going and looking in a creek. There's a creek right there. So I'm going to walk over and check that out. So right here, I see a bedrock that actually looks like shale or slate. And across the way, it's definitely slate. But right here, this white rock, it looks like either limestone or flint. But that's holding the whole wall up, so I'm not going to touch that.
It's a little waterfall. And a ton of black walnuts. Sounds like a waterfall up there too.
It's right here. Right at the waterfall. This is definitely flint. Yep.
Whoa.
Yep.
Nice.
Let me see if it smells. It smells like creek mud. But that's a good flint.
Yes.
Yep. Cool. This is big enough to make a knife out of. That's a big chunk. I don't see any damage in it either. Just right here a little bit.
Nice.
Nice. Right here, look. So one of the reasons I probably found flint down there, because I'm not seeing anymore. If you look at the plants here in the water, they're all pressed down. And it looks like a big raging flood came through here. So, since I found it at the edge of the creek flowing in, the flint is probably that way. So I'll go look that way. I'm going to check a little bit more down here and then head out. Alright, you got to do something, guys. Sniff it. Sniff this rock. Sniff it now. Smell that? It smells like trash oil. It's wonderful.
So weird.
Black walnut. So this, as far as I know, is not Onondaga. It's more of like an esopus. I don't know how to pronounce it. This stuff will work just as good. And this is a huge freaking score for me. That's a knife by itself. I could make that into a nice knife. But I really want the smelly stuff. There's the smelly stuff. So like for years now, I've only been finding pieces this big. I want to find something this big out of the smelly stuff. I don't know why I can't find it. Alright, so here is another primitive campsite that I stumbled across. The only problem is it's in the middle of a trail. So there's a trail there, and it goes right up that way. However, I went right over here, right on the logging road side here, and came across this. It's all split in half, and it's all flint. This whole chunk is flint. It's not very good flint. It's very flaky, cracked, in cubes. And somebody's been whacking at it. I think what happened was they were looking for rocks for the fire ring, because all this stuff is along the whole fire ring. Funny. It's got a lot of damage in it. If there's anything here that isn't entirely damaged at all, it's all damaged. I mean, even deep inside the rock, you could see it's cracked and crumbled in cubes. I forget the term for when it fractures into cubes like that. So that's interesting. The whole top layer there is flint. Alright. I'm not sure if I'm staying at this one or not. See this here. That's the flint. In the fire pit, it's burned. There's some more. And they burned a hammock or something. Alright, we'll look around some more. I'm going to show you guys today how I identify different kinds of creek rock for flint knapping. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw on what was it, Alone? They were using oh no, it was the Beast. they were using limestone tools to butcher animals. So this is flint. This is sharp. This is like hundreds of times sharper than limestone. If you could do it with limestone, you could do it with something like this. Stop here, and I found what looks to be a giant piece of flint here. I'll give it a test and see how it looks. Let's try this edge. Now this one I found in a creek, and I saw this smooth black here. When you crack it open, it's very, very grainy, and it's very ridgy, very bumpy. This is not good for flint knapping, but this will make good materials for a flint and steel fire starting kit. If you find something like this, you could bust this off. I'll actually show you. Yeah, so there's a ledge right here. I'm just gonna bust that off real quick. Hammerstone from the creek. You're just gonna hold it and hit. See, you could probably see the sparks as I'm hitting it. There we go. So very, very grainy inside, but it has this edge here. And I'll show you at the end of the video how to make sparks with something like this. There we go. So not so good for flint knapping, but good for fire starting. Then I have another rock that I found. Now this one has a lot of lines in it. So really the only thing you could do with this is section it off at the lines and hope you could make a tool from it. There might be some good spots in here, but I doubt it. You could see all the lines through that. We will give it a quick test. Always put leather down on your leg when you're testing. And that's to protect your leg from getting cut. See if I could get a good spot to hit here. All right. Now, this piece here actually looks like it might be able to make something. It's a thick chunk, but there's actually not too much damage in this one. There's a little bit right there and a little bit right there. But I think today we're looking for a knife blade, so gonna have to be a little bigger than that. But you can use this if you see those lines in it. You just gotta know where to work around, but if you have something like this, you can't really use that. There might be something in there in the middle if you feel like whacking on it all day long. Then I have a piece from the creek that looks medium quality to me. And this is really, really green in here. So I'm gonna see if I could get a nice flake off of this. There is a lot of lines going through it. So this piece might not be so good. We'll see. So I'll show you what those lines look like. When you bust into them, it might look good at first. You see this crystal-y stuff? That's where it split off. And then on this side, You see what it does there? Those white lines are crystal inclusions, and it makes the rock very weak. So you could still get a point from this, but it's not going to be very durable. So I'm going to go on to a higher quality rock. Now this one here might not look so good. It's really rough, but when you bust it open, see those colors? And I think I'm going to try to make a knife blade from this. This is my highest quality that I have with me right now. So we'll just see what I can do. So if you're collecting from creeks, you're going to want to be a little selective, especially if you have to carry it back. Let's see. I'll try this angle here. My jacket has a shock absorber here. Looking for a nice long flat blade. This one will do. Came right off here. Now I'll see if I could very quickly nap it into something I could use as a knife. I'll move a little bit closer. So I'm going to be hitting on things called platforms. You keep your finger underneath. See what we could do here. See, now there is lines in this too. Those are weak spots, but you could work around them. Make something to use. Just thin this out as much as I can. This spot here has some shale in it. You're going to want to get rid of that. Nice big flake taken out. I'm just zigzagging back and forth, shaping it, thinning it. Gonna hit here next. Oh, yeah, hit right there. All right. Shaping it, thinning it, doing the best I can to keep it in one piece, because creek rock is finicky. But if you know what you're doing, and you practice enough on this stuff, I'm just using this to grind the edge a little bit, so I could smack there. Now these lines, inclusions, go at an angle. You can see one there, one there. So I'm trying to avoid messing with them too much. They go through the whole piece. And like I said, that is a weak spot. And I'm trying to thin it. But in thinning it, I might break it. Just grind it so you can see what you're doing, and to make those platforms a little stronger so they don't crush. I try to get rid of this bump. Got rid of some of it. Now, if you were using in a survival situation, you'd use this as your knife. These look cool. These are fun. These are tools. You would just put it on the skin like that, and use something bigger like this to butcher the meat. All right. So I am getting there very quickly. Just being careful around those inclusions. And this way a little bit, so you can see what I'm doing. Took that right out of there. All right. We are getting there. Now, like I said, this is not incredible rock. It has flaws. But I'm going to show you how you could make something from it. At least a knife blade. Just do this as quick as possible. So this piece has a lot of damage in there. What I could try to do is get it from the bottom or from the other side. With rock like this, you can make a fairly pretty knife when you put it on a handle. Like I said, you're going to want to be careful thinning it. Getting there. When it gets thinner, on damaged rock, you're going to want to be careful. Weak spot, weak spot. Every time you hit it, it's weakening that a little bit more. So you're just going to want to be really careful. Try to support the rock with your other hand as much as you can while shaping. This has a cutting edge already. And this is from rock I just pulled right out of a creek. And it's working. Cruddy in there. Really cruddy in there. Gonna hit right here. This is the tricky part. You hit at the base going forward, you're likely to snap it, but we'll try. Bend it. So the reason for thinning this area is so that you could put it on a handle. Because these knives work a lot better when they're on a handle. Just finish up shaping, sharpen it up. Put some notches in. shaping it. And thinning it. Now this is good as is now for a knife blade. If you look at artifacts, there's a lot like this. I mean, they're more at a tip, which I'll do right now real quick. Like that. So we'll do one more pass over to sharpen it up and to put notches in. It's real fast. I'm going to use copper and a leather hand pad. Copper inside a dowel and just sharpen it up. So same thing, I'm gonna just push on those edges in and down. So into the point, push in, down, down, down. And just sharpen up that whole edge. Make sure it's nice and even all the way around. Now you would think that rock wouldn't make extremely pretty points, but it does. Look at that. That part I could thin a little bit. Look at that. So now I'm gonna leave this spot a little thick because of that damage in there. You can see it right there. If you leave it thick, the knife blade will survive and it'll cut just fine. I mean, it'll cut me. Here, look. Can you see that? Oh, I'll do it right here. Cut, cut, cut. And this is not even incredibly sharp yet. Not yet. It will be. Okay. Sharpening up those edges. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw on what was it, Alone? They were using oh no, it was the Beast. They were using limestone tools to butcher animals. So this is flint. This is sharp. This is like hundreds of times sharper than limestone. If you could do it with limestone, you could do it with something like this. Make it sharp enough here, and that'll cut your skins, cut your hides, and it'll butcher the meat like a regular knife. Now what I'm gonna do for the notches is I'm gonna use indirect just to really quickly put notches in. I'll show you how I do that. I rest the notcher here, the flaker here, and I hit down and it pops the flake out. Put the flaker under my leg, rest it into the point, hit down, that's 2 hits, hit down, hit down. So that's all I did. And now you have a spot to wrap. Put the handle on here. Let's say you're putting it onto this. Put it on there. You find some kind of glue and cordage, and you have your knife. sharp as can be. Not as thin as I would like it, but that's creek rock for you. It's really pretty. It's green and black, splotchy, swirly. And that is how you make a knife blade from something like that. All right. You ready? You ready for this? Look at that. Nice giant chunk.
Oh, I'm so glad we came over here.
Nice. I'm looking for these flat, shiny surfaces. Nice. I really love when I find random flint like this in my pocket. So I got a whole pocket full of flint here with 15 minutes of walking around. I decided to, it's fall now. It's cold. It's like 20 degrees. Well, it's 25 now. Last night, I got in late last night, as usual, and just car camped this time. I slept in the back of the car, and it was very, very, very cold. I'm glad I had 0-degree weather sleeping bags. But decided to come down and look for flint, see what I could find along stretches here in the mountains. And I'm just going to explore around and see what I can find. I'm going to be heading west. So I was looking at this piece of limestone right here. And I glanced up the rock line here and found some pretty high quality flint. Test it. Yeah, that's pretty high quality. I'm keeping this piece. Cool. Look at all the frost.
Okay.
Sometimes it's hard to see it because this stuff has limestone mixed in. Here's a piece of limestone. Here's a piece of flint with limestone in it. So you can see how similar that looks. And then here you have the flint. It's just a little tiny piece. About half of this is flint. If you put side by side, you can see. Limestone, flint, limestone. Here's a bunch more. Some right here. This piece right here. Right next to limestone. That's a pretty big piece. I'm gonna take that. This is also flint, but it's very, very low quality and has a lot of flaws in it, so I don't really like to use this stuff. I always look for the higher quality. is that lower quality flint. This looks really low quality. I got my giant copper lead-filled bopper this time. Very, very, very low quality. Limestone here, a little bit of flint there. See this too. Next to it. Let's see. It's chunky, crystally. It'll work though. This is all no good. This whole section here, there's only a line of good going through it. And it only goes about halfway. So, I'll show a little bit of a comparison here. I mean, this has dirt on it, but you can see the smooth surface here and here. But if you look at this, and you see that one crack going through, that would flake off compared to this gray. And you can see the lines running through it. And you could see how this would not work too well for flint knapping. It would work for flint and steel, but this would be better for flint knapping. You can see it's two different materials. This one's gray-blue, this one's dark gray. Check this out. If you're out here and you find something that you're unsure of, the best way to test it is to take a corner off. So what I like to do is hold underneath and hit and look. If I can't tell from that, I'll take the whole corner off by hitting straight down. And I'll do that here. You see how this ledge is aimed like that? Like that. So what I'll do is I'll hit right in this ledge, like almost straight down, to test it. And not flint. Some kind of slate or shale. But that's the way I test it. Either that or I just snap the whole thing in half. Like that. As I was doing that, I glanced up here and saw something. There it is. Good piece of flint right here. Tumbled chunk. You don't even have to flake that to tell it's flint. I'm gonna leave this one though, it's tiny. Can't tell. I can't tell if this is good quality or not. Looks like no. It is okay. It's a rough flint, it's not fine-grained. So I'm going to take this piece. Let me test the other side. It's very rough.
Looks like limestone there, and
yeah, that's limestone.
you can see it kind of mixed in right here.
Yeah, so there might just be a little bit of flint in here. So I'm not going to take this piece. Of half of it is limestone. I'll just leave it. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to check in all the creeks and head west over the mountains, through the mountains, and I'm going to be looking for Onondaga Chert. And that stuff smells like oil. And in my previous videos, I did find a few small pieces of that, but I never found any in the mountains here. So I'm going to see where that line starts. as I'm just looking around. There's gray flint right here. Look at this. I've not seen this either, so I don't know what this is. Let's see. Might just be the same stuff, I don't know. High quality. Super smooth, super glittery, glossy. If I could find a big piece of that, that'd be great. I mean, if there's little pieces, there's big pieces, probably just like 3 feet down. Underneath all this stuff washed up. I'll keep looking. So this here is a medicinal plant that's been used for thousands of years. If you know what it is, put it in the comments. And even better yet, if you know what it was used for, put it in the comments. It's a fluffy plant. Soft fluff. Woot, woot, woot. So I just quickly looked over the whole topsoil here, the top layer. Didn't kick any rocks over or dig down any, just on top. And I found 2 decent pieces. I don't see anything big here. So I'm gonna keep heading west, following the creeks. I'm gonna head towards the Great Lakes. Let's see if I can find some Onondaga. Found some more that this actually looks like higher quality. That gray stuff. Let's see what this side looks like. Yeah, I will take that piece. That's a good piece. That's probably a good piece right next to it. I'll take those. These are perfect for spear points and small knives. These will work great. It's got a little bit of limestone in it. The flint starts right here. You can see the line of where it starts. That's all limestone. So this would make a good knife, actually. That's a decent size. This is the highest quality I've found of this gray-blue stuff. So that's really exciting. I've been looking for this gray-blue stuff, and it's usually in small little pockets and not really able to be napped into a knife, arrowhead, a spear point.
There's another piece.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird shape with a lot of limestone.
Yeah, that's how we usually find it. It just is really chunky.
This is what I usually find.
But you have a
big
nice
pocket of limestone, chunky and small.
What you just found is like a nice slab of it.
Here's more. That's a good arrowhead size. Spear point. Okay, that is awesome. I really love when I find random flint like this. I'll keep looking. In my pocket. So I got a whole pocket full of flint here. With 15 minutes of walking around. It only took me 15 minutes to find all that good flint. Sometimes you come to a spot like this and you don't find anything at all. But you can't find it if you don't look. So look. I'm happy I did. I was just gonna leave, and I looked down and she found some actually. I don't see any more. I'll keep looking though. Fossil.
What is it?
I think that's a fossil. I'm not sure. Yes, fossil. Some kind of worm in the limestone. There's more up here too. Little tiny shells and stuff. More of the gray here. I'm looking for these flat, shiny surfaces. Nice. Yep. Taking that. In my pocket, there's a giant piece. Under this. Look at that.
Ooh. Oh, nice. There's some more.
Yeah.
Little one. And some chunks.
Yeah, I'm taking this. See what I could get out of it. It's an arrowhead. That's an arrowhead. And Leah carries the big rocks. There you go. Enjoy that. Spotted a good piece of the black plant. Right here. Nice giant chunk.
Oh, I'm so glad we came over here.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
That's a keep. See, you can see this is limestone.
Yep.
And then that's the flint. That's pretty high quality. It does have some damage, but I'll be able to get lots of spear points and arrowheads out of this. Nice. You carry the big rocks. Here you go. Here you go. You got that? Muscles? Muscles. Not gonna go too much further here. So I see one more piece right down there. Right at the last little bit here. Always be careful coming down these. You don't want to twist your ankle. It's a pretty good piece. Pretty high quality. Pretty solid. I don't see many flaws. There's a bunch of limestone right here. Nice. All right. I have some acid reflux. Coffee did it. Okay, so I'm going to take these and I'm going to head out and I'm going to keep exploring and see what other different kinds of flint and chert I could find. Different colors, different material. All right. All right, so one of the problems that I've had is determining flint and high quality limestone, because it looks really similar, you know, especially if it's wet. So you just test the limestone and you can see how grainy that is. So that's super grainy compared to super smooth and shiny. This is not shiny, this is dull and grainy. You can nap it. It will work. It's very brittle, it's very tough. This stuff is very sharp and very shiny. Here's more. So again, it kind of looks like limestone. This might actually be Onondaga. Hold on a second. Hold on. That is not Onondaga. It looks like it though. That's what Onondaga kind of looks like, that white gray. But this is the same flint as this, it's just weathered differently. Okay. So I can't even move 2 feet here. I saw this, I was like, oh, limestone. I saw this, I was like, oh, limestone. And my foot hit it, and it's flint. It's a big chunk of flint. It's high quality flint. I'll actually show you how high quality this is. See, it looks like junk, right? You ready? You ready for this?
Surprise, motherfucker.
You see what I mean? Super high quality. Okay. Fossil. Right there. Shells. zoom you around so you can see what I got going on. Morning, guys. I'm along a creek here looking for flint. There's piles of rock everywhere. See something right there? That vein of rock going through the white, black. I'll point at it. Right there.
Oh yeah.
I see some other stuff I want to test. I have no idea. Just try it. Nope. It would work, but it's very, very low quality. Hand me that piece.
It feels like flint.
Let's see. So this is also a good piece. It's very tough flint, which is good for what I use it for. Very similar. This is lower quality, this is higher quality, but both are good for what I use for. Samples from this creek here. So I got 2, it's enough for me, and I'm gonna head out. So the rounder ones are a little bit harder to get into because it's a tougher flint, but it's higher quality. Almost glossy. So this is the cobble. I just knocked the flake off for you. Incredibly pure stuff. It's kind of black gray. It comes in big boulders like this, big cobbles.
Did you get one?
It's a tiny bit windy. I am in the woods. Wild, wild forest. Let's see if I can make that come in a little better. There we go. So, this is why exploration is worth it. Been looking around quite a bit for somewhere that I wanted to camp. And I don't know what kind of trees these are. Maybe a spruce? It's not eastern white pines. It's gotta be a spruce of some kind. I'll have Leah ID that for me, but this ground here is all soft. Super soft as I'm stepping on it. And man, that was a pretty long drive. So we got here and we looked around quite a bit and we did set up camp. I'm walking to it now. This is a pretty big area to explore here. I'm pretty excited. I have an inflatable boat. An inflatable boat. I gotta get a kayak. I just haven't been able to yet. But this water here, this all has moose on it. Apparently, I already heard some loons, and I saw one dove under the water or something. There's also some strange looking ducks. Ducks or something. Oh, I needed this. So, okay. I'm walking down to the campsite. There's nothing here at all. Like at all, there's nothing. So, Leah is beat from looking up stuff and looking at directions and looking down. While I was driving, she was looking down at the phone trying to get a good spot here, doing some research and such. So I think she might be inside the tent, but I'm gonna at the last second here zoom you around so you can see what I got going on. All right, so I'll do this slowly. Let me make sure there we go. All right, so there's the tent. All right. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I got a good sight. I'm gonna stay here for many, many days. We hung up our wet clothes from the rain. We got our solar panels set up here. The solar panel is amazing. It's just like a fold-up suitcase. It folds up. I'll show you in a little bit on that. And this thing will charge anything we have. Man. So, okay. Tent. Leah's in the tent. Stuff, camp stuff. And tackle box. Fire pit. Nature. Look at this. I got my pole set up. Look at this. There's freaking nothing here. Alright guys, I'm going to enjoy this a little bit. I'll be back soon. Upstate is awesome. Adirondacks and Adirondacks are awesome. So I'm gonna go swimming in that. If it's not too cold, it might be too cold, I don't know. Alright, be back. Look at that. While I'm fishing here, like I'm literally in the mountain. Like, there's bears, so you should have bear protection or wild animal protection. And I don't know why people on alone don't have something like this. That's the first thing you should make. Some kind of Spear, not just for hunting, but for protection. Spear is the oldest weapon known to man, besides just a rock that you throw. But everyone, you know, I always expected people on like the show Alone or Naked and Afraid to make a spear when they get into these situations. And I've only seen maybe 3 people do it. So, yeah, if you're going on Alone, you're going on Naked and Afraid, make a spear. Use a stone tip. If you want to learn how to make these, they're in my other videos. Come here. That one. That one.
What is it?
Looks like either... No, it's a red-eared shellcracker thingy. Not a big fish, but it's a fish.
It's pretty.
Mm-hmm. See if I can get this hook out of him. Let's see if I can do it like this without getting jabbed.
Aww.
Okay. I'll put him off the swim. Tried fishing until it got dark out. It is midnight. I didn't catch much. I got other stuff to do though, so. Okay. Have a good night, guys. I'm going to sleep. Good night. Good night. So, I'm just taking a little walk because I'm in the middle of a full-blown panic attack. My pulse is probably like 120 right now. Feeling like I can't breathe. So this keeps happening to me. This is part of the problem I'm having with the thyroid issues that I've talked about in my other videos for a few years now. And one of the reasons I haven't uploaded is because I keep having to deal with stuff like this. And I went to a pain management specialist, and he said that it's costochondritis and fibromyalgia, which I completely disagree with. I don't think it's that at all. It's probably the costochondritis because it hurts to touch sometimes. but it feels like it's connected to my neck. It's hurting my chest. So the reason I'm having a panic attack is because when I get this pain, it feels like what I would imagine a heart attack feels like. And again, I've been getting this for years now. Go to the hospital, I get EKGs, I get cardiologist checkups, and everything you could think of, and they're like, oh no, nothing's up. They're like, your thyroid's a little wonky. I'm like, no shit. So, I just have to stop every now and then. I guess the camera is, okay, yeah, the camera's there. So I just have to stop every now and then and try to tell myself that the pain is not anything dangerous. It's just pain. It's scary pain, but it's not dangerous. So, I'm gonna keep doing this and just try to chill for a few minutes, but yeah, this thyroid stuff is no fun. It puts me out of commission for a while every now and then. So, if some of you are wondering why I don't upload so often, that's why. I'm in and out of doctor's offices and specialists and all that, but when I can do these big trips like this, record as much as I can, and really helps. These trips really help my spirits. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. I know some people have been asking for some kind of health update, so I guess I'll throw this in. This is me in a panic attack. I used to actually faint from this. I faint like that, just out. But that was also the thyroid. Before I had my thyroid out, it was producing too much suddenly, and I would pass out. But now I just get these stupid-ass panic attacks that really scare me. But I'm dealing with a lot of pain. I have muscle relaxers, but I don't want to take muscle relaxers driving around. So I took 2 Tylenol, and I'm just gonna hang out and drive until it passes, I guess. And anyway, that's health update in Burlington, Vermont. All right, back to the road. Silver trout. Check this thing out. It's upstairs here. Let's see what this is all about. Looks like it might be a small fly shop up there. Yeah. Cool. It says go to Unit 1. Around the corner, open door. Pick some of these up. That's a cool shot. So that's a cool shot. I got myself some stuff. 80 bucks worth of flies. $85 later. 85. And I got an old scratched up thing. But, hold on. Oh, heck. Inside. That look amazing. I would eat these. If I was underwater and I saw this above me, or below me, coming at me, I would eat these. For sure. That's what 85 bucks looks like in Vermont. Okay, so he said there's a good wild brook trout nearby. He gave me tips because I spent a lot of money, I guess. Bribery. Nice place, nice guy. I like it here. Okay, I'm gonna head over there and check it out. So I'm under some bridge in Vermont. The water is freaking blue. Dude told me there's trout here. Said there's rainbow and wild brookies. Fix the color there. Yeah, look at that. Man, I wish I could show you guys how clear that is. Look at that. Maybe I'll just sit here all day. It's pretty amazing. Give you this view. I'm kind of on an angle here, just standing on rocks. Yeah, make sure it don't slip. Yeah. Let's see. There you go. Mad River. Apparently it just flooded. Angrily mad. Alright, gonna try some fly fishing. Here's Leah with my pole. So I'm not leaving Vermont until I catch a trout. Like, I'm not leaving until I catch a trout. I'm not leaving until I catch a trout.
You see how clear it is? Jeez. See giant boulders on the quartzite. Oh! Oh!
I don't know what that was. It went too fast.
Let's check the footage. Dude, it's so clear. Wow. That's quartzite? Oh, that's big. That's mostly what I see is like quartzite and then stone that's not so great for knapping. Hell yeah! Hooray! Is it a brook trout?
Yeah.
Oh, look at
I
his
believe
spots.
so.
Are you happy?
Yes.
You got the trout, finally.
Yes. Oh. About time. I'm gonna eat them. That's my first wild brook trout. I've caught stocked fish before, That was totally different. That was awesome. I caught 3 of them. Well, I hooked 3 of them. 2 of them flopped right off because I don't know what I'm doing. But I've caught rainbows before, and I've caught brown trout before, but I believe they were all stocked. But that's my first wild. I'm going to say that's my first wild mountain trout.
Hell yeah. High five.
Awesome! Cook it a little extra just to be safe. And there's going to be little bones in here, I'm guessing. And try some of the tail too. That is really, 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 really good. Let me cook them a little more. Crunchy. Let's see, did I cook them right? Well, that broke. There we go. Looks like I cooked them perfectly.
Nice.
Yes, look at that. Excellent. Excellent meat.
Oh, that looks good.
This whole spine is out. Taste this little morsel. Thank you for the meal, little brook trout. I'm gonna put it right in the fire. I'm not gonna eat the eyes like what Jared does. I'm just not right now at least. So, little sacrifice. Thank you. Tastes good. I got my little project table from, I don't know, a week ago. And it's still holding up. Got my food on it, got my cheese on it, got my adobo on it. And eat a little brook trout. That is freaking delicious. Wow. I wish I caught a bigger one.
Have you tried the skin?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. I really wish I caught a bigger one. This is delicious.
I guess we'll just have to go back tomorrow and catch like 10 more.
That's a wild meal. That's tasty. Hopefully I got all the bones. Looks like yes. Little crunch.
Calcium.
So, I don't know if the skin's supposed to be cooked more. Still a little. So I'm even going to eat the guy's skin. That reminds me of something. It reminds me of something. Wow. I did not char it, but still. That is good. That is good. Yep, need more of that. That fish is gone. I left a little bit for Leah to pick up. Mountain ice water. Right there. Oh,
salamander.
Is it? That's a salamander?
You see him?
Ah, I didn't mean to mess with your house, dude. Alright, he's crawling back into the wall. So we stopped at this creek here. I just wanted to look around, see what kind of lithics were here. And got an interesting orangish looking quartzite. And I could nap this into something. A really pretty location too. I like it here. There's little fish in the water, there's frogs. So let's show something. But right here I noticed I'm going. 2 blocks of what looked to be flint. And that is flint. This is definitely flint. And that is good flint. Very, very cool. The whole pile right here. That is shocking. Alright, I'm going to keep looking around. So all this right here is flint, but it's very, very tough flint. Cool. Let's test this piece. Just for the heck of it. That is good flint for sure. Cool, cool, cool. Looking at this big chunk here, I don't know how the quality is, but it seems pretty big. It looks like it goes down pretty deep, and I don't have any digging tools with me. That is flint. Wow. Let's test right here. Look at that. Success. Randomly found flint. This time just in the woods. This is a good 50-pound block here. And a worm.
No, it's a salamander.
Is it? That's a salamander?
You see him?
Ah, I didn't mean to mess with your house, dude. Alright, he's crawling back into the wall. Cool. Alright. So right here I see a giant boulder of flint. The way I could tell is the smooth brown top. The flint here is a brown color. When you crack it open, it's black. So that's a giant chunk of flint. I'm going to keep walking down and see if there's anything that I could actually crack into. That's too big, and all I have is a little stone.
Let me see your hammerstone.
So I got a little washout from downriver here. This stuff was washed in. So I'm going to check to see if any of it is knappable. Got a little hammerstone. A little ringy. Hear that ringy bell? That's either high quality limestone or this has flint in it. I'm not sure yet. That's a high quality limestone. You can knap that. That is razor sharp. It's just, it's brittle. So like if you're using that as a tool, you're going to have to resharpen it a lot. But you could see it comes off in a conchoidal fracture, just like flint. Except this is limestone. Alright, so I got a piece of brown here, and I know in the area here the brown is sometimes flint, sometimes it's basalt. I won't know till I crack it open. So we'll see what we got here. Flint. See that? This is it's called a shale flint. It's not as shiny or perfect as most flints. This has more shale than flint, but you hear that ringing? Almost like a bell. If you hear that when you're testing rocks, it's worth investigating and cracking into, because you might be able to find something that, like this alone, can be used as a knife. If you're fishing in a creek like this, you catch a fish, you want to cut it open, gut it, just use the flake. Works perfectly. I'm going to keep this piece. Keep looking. I see black and brown and a lot of white and limestone. So it just takes some experimentation of cracking them open and seeing what's inside. So I'll show you what I mean about ringing. Like if I hit this coarse stone here, it sounds very dull, more like a knock. And then if I find something that looks like flint, like this, which is definitely flint, higher pitched, ringy, that's some good flint. It's got some damage in there, but that's flint. One I saw smooth brown and chunky black, and it has some fossils in it. Usually if you see stuff like this in areas with limestone and fossils, there's different kinds of flint mixed into stuff. I might need a bigger hammerstone to do this, but different areas will be ringy if there's flint in there, and other areas will be dull if there's not. You hear that? Compared to... So let's test certain areas of this particular rock here. It does have flint in it, but it's very weathered and not so good. Let's see what else we could get into this piece. I doubt it, but we'll try. Gonna need a bigger hammerstone. Yeah, I don't know. I really want to try to get into that to see. It's mostly limestone. There is some flint, but it's not anything wonderful. Nah. Alright, I thought that was worth investigating, but it's not.
Do you want to check that one?
Check this little thing. Where did my other hammerstone go now? There's this one. That sounds like a dull ringy. Let's see. That's a shell. It's nappable, but it's nothing too high quality. Limestone shale. You can see the glittering in it. So you can nap this, but it's not very high quality. There's my other hammerstone. Nope. That was a trickery. It's covered in sludge. Limestone. Ugh. Ugh. You want it? A higher quality sound to them. This one here, I know is probably going to be good. I hit right at this ledge here. Super high quality flint. Smells like gunpowder when you hit it. Where'd that flake go? There we go. So that's a keep. I do not know what kind of flint this is. And then we got this here. It has a super ringy sound to it, but it doesn't look so good, so I wanted to test this. Limestone with some flint in it. The darker stuff is the flint. The white crumbly stuff is the limestone. I'm going to try the other side. I could see a little bit of flint in there. It's giving you a big problem like this and busting up your hammerstone. It's probably not worth it. I mean, there's a little bit in there, and I'm trying to... Yeah, see, that's like freaking concrete in there. So there's probably not a lot of good flint in there. Especially if it's giving you a hard time to crack it. Good flint will pop right off like that other one did. So this I'm going to leave here. So the reality of this, when you're looking, I went all the way up and down this whole creek and only found one really high quality piece. And this is super high quality, so to me this is worth it. It's kind of a banded chert. So I'm gonna continue on and see what else I could find. I'm happy with this. I wonder if this is Onondaga. I don't know, it just smells like mud. Alright, I'm out. Don't stand too close, there's no underneath you there. Here, I'm gonna throw it up to you.
Alright, this is gonna take some digging. I'll be back. And we got it.
Okay, so there's some good examples here down off this cliff. Some of it is not so good, but it is flint, so if you wanted to use it for fire and steel, this would work for fire starting, for bushcraft. This stuff here is very decayed and not good at all for much of anything. This whole piece is no good, very decayed. Not much flint in it, it's mostly limestone, so I'm going to chuck that back. That could go back, that could go back. This is a good example of what the flint would look like when you're looking for it. It comes in different forms. This kind runs in veins through limestone, and you can see the limestone here and the limestone on the bottom. And this is, I'm going to call this Eastern Onondaga. Then there's other kinds. And I'm not so sure on this one. This whole piece might be limestone. But this is flint. That's a solid block of flint. Right here. You can see pieces have been knocked off from tumbling around down there. And that's flint. This is the same kind of flint. Massive boulder that Leah found. Perfect flint. Again, more examples of stuff that's decayed, not so good, can't really use it for anything, so throw that back. This piece might have some good in it, so I'm going to keep it. I see the shiny black here, so I'm going to try to split this in half and make something from it. This is that shale stuff. Look at this. So it'll cut, it'll flake, but I don't really like this stuff too much. I'm going to keep it anyway. Let's actually take a piece off. We'll use the flint to knock the flake off. So it does have some good shale flint in there. It's much different than the other kinds. If you look, you can see this is very shiny. And that's kind of dull, and it'll work. It'll shape, it'll cut, it'll flake, it'll make arrowheads, it'll make knives, but it's not as good as the other stuff. This is more of this. That shale stuff.
It's more coarse inside.
Yeah, definitely coarser inside. This I'm going to toss back. Can't really do too much with it. I have enough flint and fire steels for myself. This is going to be really hard to get into, and there's a crack going through. But that's some pretty high quality flint right there, but it's only about that much. So if you wanted to make an arrowhead from this piece, you could. I'm not going to keep this, I'm going to toss it back. So, another example of the flint inside the limestone, but that's very, very damaged. You can see it's damaged. I'm going to bring this home to try to split it. But for now, I want to check out this piece, because this is a mystery to me. I don't know what this is. It might just be limestone. So I'm going to use this big one to try to knock an edge off here. And that is limestone. So this is a whole big block of limestone. And as I said, this stuff is sharp and it'll cut, but it dulls quickly. You could shape it. It's very tough. It's a ringy, which means it's a high quality limestone. You can use that to knap, but I wouldn't waste my time with it considering I got this stuff. So I'm going to toss this back and keep the rest. So I've been conserving that one rock that you threw at me. I rolled down the hill, went in the water, and I've been really conserving that. I've made like 5 knives out of it so far. And I still have a chunk about that big. It's like a brick. But I've been like, oh God, I don't want to waste this rock because it's so pristine. It's the shale chert, and you just found 2 more huge boulders of it. So I'm very, very happy with that.